Okay, hi Buff friends, Melbourne Buff friends. I'm head programmer Kai Perrignon. It is March 31st, 2026, 11 a.m. ish my time, and I'm talking to Buffet Infinity writer-director Simon Glassman. Simon, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. And thank you to the whole Buff community.
Um, okay, before we get into the movie proper, can you speak to your background as a stand-up comedian and a caricaturist and their influence on your filmmaking work?
I can speak to the influence that it had on this film because I think that even like in retrospect, a lot of it is about like sort of millennial eclecticism, like the fact that Buffet Infinity is like the it's I wanted it to be like a Freddy Krueger or like a Jason or like a monster who is a millennial and has sort of trouble defining its brand. And millennials are all about branding, so it's like it's an evil Lovecraftian elder god and stuff, but it also, it doesn't want you to think of it like that. And that was what I thought was really compelling about the story was that it's struggling with its identity while also being sort of like the epitome of evil. And I'm not evil, but I have like a lot of interests and like I started as a cartoonist, and then sort of did a lot of filmmaking in my early 20s, and like that sort of extended into like cartooning. What led to filmmaking, and then when I wasn't able to make a living doing that in Canada, I started doing stand-up comedy. So it's like one thing after another, and it's like a sort of a difficulty in like defining myself, and I kind of felt that in the character. That all comes from like my own ability to stick with a single thing.
And can you talk a bit more about, you just mentioned you did a lot of filmmaking in like your early 20s. Like what was the context of that? Were you at film school? Were you self-taught? What was going on?
Well, I was able to get a television show off the ground from a college project, and it was called Felt Up. There's like a bunch of puppets where we'd get like the actual audio of people telling embarrassing, awkward stories. There were sometimes like sexual, or sometimes like just really interesting like 3 minute intervals, almost like This American Life, but we would take the audio then reenact it with puppets.
Cool. Cool. And so was
It
that
was
like,
we got picked up by a television station in Canada, and then the next year that became the Smithsonian Channel, and it just stopped, just everything evaporated.
the whims of funding? So did you like how much of the show did you make before it got canned, before the whole network got canned?
We have like a full season, like you can still look it up on YouTube.
Cool.
But I mean, like the emails that I send to the channel that I was once my employers, like they're not even paying for the like the domains anymore.
Uh, brutal, brutal.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, it's just Canada.
that's just is that was that like do you is that like do you think representative of like the Canadian like art funding landscape?
I don't know about that. I think that it was just a it's a really scary time even then where I had the chance to sort of just only work on it myself and I didn't, and I sort of sold out and was just immediately thought the idea of being on TV was so tantalizing. Uh, and then it's just like, well, now it's owned by somebody who doesn't exist. And then now it's yeah, it disappeared. It was weird.
Bit of I feel like there's a bit of buffet infinity in that story, a bit of things popping up and disappearing in the business zone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just funny to have like put so much work in, and then it's just like not only is it owned by somebody else, but it's owned by somebody who I can't I is a ghost.
You couldn't even contact, yeah, they couldn't even contact them at all if you wanted to, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's and the I guess yeah the emails, yes, the executive goes to a different email entirely, can't find it. That's do did you like? I'm just curious about this. Did you get like how did you find out about it? Do you remember was there email? Was there a phone call where you're like, oh, the network's turning into the Smithsonian Network?
Yeah, they were just like, oh, well, the lady did who runs it was like, yeah, we're just becoming a different channel, and I'm like, well, you can't just be a different channel, but they did, and I did not subscribe to the Smithsonian channel, but I've heard good things.
Well, they don't have your show, so I wouldn't subscribe. Okay, so moving on from that, let's talk about Buffet Infinity specifically a bit, which is like, okay, what's the origin of Buffet Infinity? Conceptually, I guess first, and then we can talk maybe materially second.
The idea was to make I wanted to make a fake documentary and not worry about the aesthetic of it, like not worry about how every scene was lit, and it was more about following a continuous narrative rather than creating a look or anything. Uh, and I was originally going to do something like a fake documentary about something like Sasquatch or something like a chud, and you just see photos of the thing, and then you don't actually and have people talk over top of it. But I ended up making that first like 30-second commercial that's sort of a version of it still in the movie. That's like just a poorly produced buffet commercial, and I just kept adding context to it, and then adding context to that, and eventually it grew into 40 minutes, and I was sort of satisfied with the 40-minute version, but I just kept focusing. It kind of grew like Buffet Infinity itself in my imagination. I kept going for walks and uh, just kept growing. So ended up getting to like an hour around. I think the longest version of it was like 2 hours or something. And then I was like, well, I got to dial this back. This is ridiculous. And now it's a sturdy 90 minutes.
So was there, you're talking about it like you were kind of building upon it naturally. Like, was there much of a scripting going on, or were you just like, were new ideas coming to you and you were just like putting it on top of each other, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I never wrote like a single, there's no single manuscript of everything. It was just like one sketch with Ahmed, and then one sketch with another sketch with Kevin Singh, the guy who plays Mosley Rosen. Then I'd get my friend Claire when she was available. Then my friend Ben, who plays Captain Savings, he lives in Calgary, so I get to shoot with him like maybe twice a year or something. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's funny because like most of the movie is built around scheduling because I would not be able to shoot with Ben, so I'd be like, all right, well, sorry, Ben, you're gonna get you got a couple pages cut. Yeah, a lot of the film was sort of built around scheduling because like a lot of people would leave town or like there's whole sections of the movie that I was actually really happy with that we had to cut because somebody would like move to Toronto or somebody would yeah I or like end up leaving Edmonton for whatever reason. So yeah, I like that the movie is like very haphazard, partially because it was just like they it took court the place over like so many years. Like people's lives just became different by the end.
So, like, what was the timeline? Do you remember like year start, year end? Was it how long, how many years?
Yeah, I started at the very beginning of COVID, and then yeah, it was a great COVID project because I got to be super obsessed and all a lot of the shoots were in studio, so I didn't have to we didn't have to wear masks very often for the when people were wearing masks.
Cool. So it's kind of like a weird, nice confluence of the project and the situation working out. Were how much money are you working with, if any?
No, it was all self-funded through caricatures. So like I'd say like I can't say what the exact budget was because I probably spent more than what I would think it was because I'd be, you got to pay for pizza and stuff. And
Mhm.
then uh yeah, I just wouldn't be able to do it like several days in a row because it's just too expensive.
Mhm. Uh, that is that's beautiful to me. That's awesome. That you're just uh, caricaturing, bringing the money together, and then shooting the next scene. Okay, and so then like the actual shape of the oh no, go on.
Oh, it just sounds more whimsical than it was. It would just be like, oh fuck, I got to go to the Calgary Stampede and draw caricatures for a little bit. And then I'd come home with like a bucket of money and be like, all right, let's just throw it at our DP and then hope that what we shoot turns out.
Uh, okay, and so you're shooting it piecemeal like this, and then uh, are you in terms of like finding the shape of it? You said it was like 2 hours at one point. You cut it down. It was less than that at one point. You built it up. Like, how are you finding the narrative, as it were? Are you really deep in the editing zone, or is this like you're looking at the footage and you're writing stuff down? How are you shaping it?
Great question. Yeah. I mean, I think like the biggest inspiration was like probably just, falling asleep while you're watching commercials in the 90s. You're watching like The Simpsons and the X-Files, and it all feels like they're all gonna be, it just feels like there's got to be some kind of connection if you're watching uh content. When you were watching TV, it just felt like you're not just watching TV, there has to be some type of connection between everything. And like as a kid, if you're watching too much TV, you're exposing yourself to so much of like so many things that you have no business watching. You're watching, commercials for different cleaning products, and like it's all just kind of like flowing past you instead of and it. Uh, so I wanted to feel random, but at the same like and chaotic, but and the channel changing of which is I guess kind of like the biggest gimmick in the movie that like that was like probably 2 or 3 years in that I started using that as the editing technique because I just want it's a great button. Like it's almost like what it really is kind of making fun of TikTok, where it's like you can cut at the exact moment that something's about to happen, and then you have an excuse to not reveal what's something really cool that people want to see.
Hmm. It definitely feels like, yeah, you have. I want to. I have another question about you kind of thinking out this button, as it were. But I do think, yeah, as I said, it works really well as just approximating what it's like to be on TikTok or be on Twitter or Instagram, wherever the hell, just moving, 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 moving. I think that keeps it, despite the movie being kind of rooted in this kind of 90s-ness, it keeps it feeling modern to me. So okay, but let's back up. You said it took you a while to figure out this channel surfing editing idea. So how was the movie functioning before that?
It was not as much fun, and I'd say that it was like a more of a it just it was a bit of a slog, and it was a harder movie to get through. Uh, I think that the at one it's like that you can kind of chart like all the different edits. There's like probably 20 or 30 different edits, and you can tell what I was watching and listening to by which of the edits, or by the edit. Like the first one I think was like very influenced by Welcome to Night Vale, which is a really cool podcast that I stole pretty liberally from. Then later on, I started uh, watching a little bit more Adult Swim stuff. There's like a lot of Adult Swim in the movie, and then uh, honestly, I started watching mannequin movies.
What's
Yeah,
what can you say? What kind of movie? Sorry.
uh, like what was it? Funny Games. There's like it just ended up becoming like a really dark, uh, yeah, really dark German films for a little bit.
That's a really interesting reference point you're saying because I can totally see the Adult Swim, right, and I can feel the Night Vale or adjacent stuff. The Haneke thing though is really interesting because so much of his movies, right, are like looking at like the being looked at and like looking at like the use of the camera. So it's interesting. It's like your all of the footage in your movie is like not all of it, but it's basically advertisements, right? And like thinking of the Haneke of that all. That's like an interesting spiky reference point.
Yeah, I love the piano teacher. I love that it's like it's so unrelenting, and like I wanted to have a little bit of that, but not enough that it's like that's something I like as a spice. Like Haneke's, I feel like Haneke's like an ingredient, but it's like you don't want to make a whole the whole meal is Haneke, then it's like it's not really like it is it is great. Like it's he's like amazing, but it's like for me, as like a dad and stuff, it's just like I can't deal with like that level of darkness. I just want like a little pinch, and then I want to be out of it.
Uh, it's funny. I feel like with Haneke sometimes, even Haneke, I'm like that's too much of you, Haneke. You gotta chill out a bit. But piano teacher though, that's
Yeah,
a
same with like Lars von Trier. Like all those like Scandinavian directors were just like it was so cool, but it's like I can do that once a month.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well, there's definitely like Buffy Findy, it remains fun even as like the I guess the implications of like what's happening narratively are getting darker and darker. I think it's a really interesting, a really kind of nice balance you managed to pull off with it. Uh, okay, so we've kind of answered some of my other questions through our conversations here, but okay, let's talk about okay, no, so still on this actually, I still have questions here, like in terms of when you're shooting, so you're talking about like finding the shape of the edit of the movie as you're editing and kind of finding this channel surfing idea. But in terms of actually like shooting, like with your actors, like if you like is there a lot of improvisation or are you telling them, oh, this is broadly going to happen in the future? Like a lot of it feels very improvised in a very like naturalistic way. How is that actual directing the actors going?
Uh, well, yeah, I've only I guess I've directed actors for quite a bit, but for some of them it's like not only their first time like acting, it's their first time ever on camera. Like Ahmed is like he'd never performed outside of stand up before, I think. No, he did some like he did some singing in junior high, but he was like for the most part like I and he's also English as second language, so it's like the script was it just like trying to uh have the scripts memorized was it took a really long time, and he's one of my best friends. So it was like it's great to have if you're doing that and it gets hard. It's good that you really care about the actor because you can kind of push him. And he definitely was like getting frustrated having because he's like, well, I already said this, so why do you want me to say it again? And I'm like that. It's like that's just kind of part of the process. And now he's like, oh man, I get it. So you wanted me to say things like a bunch of times so they could get like the different reactions. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we could have probably saved like many hours if I just maybe explained that correctly to him the first time.
Uh, that's a good that's funny. That's okay because also I specifically was asking about Amit because I think he's so good in the movie and he's so funny. It just feels like he's really channeling this character.
Yeah, there's no acting at all. Like he is I when I did the animatics for like because I do animatic storyboards for most of the film. Is that copper?
No, I don't know what it is. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
it's old shitty metal. It's
Nice.
been with me for 10 years.
Uh
Storyboards.
I do the animatics, so I have like a perfect Ahmed impression, so that it is like pitch perfect, and then I have him just like watch the animatic and then just like reenact the way that I tell. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say this because it's taking a little away from his creative ownership of it, but uh, yeah, he does a perfect job for the movie, and I was just like, he only started on it probably like 4 years in. And now it's like he's literally the star of the movie. I think he's literally in two other movies in Canada coming up.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful wow, 40 years in and then he becomes like one of the centers of the movie. That's so what about the on the other okay, in terms of character stuff, right? We got Ahmed is kind of in between at least I kind of I read it, the Buffet and Findy company and the sandwich shop. So when did this shape of like the sandwich shop kind of being antagonistic to the buffet place did that come into play?
Yeah, well, I always like I wanted a movie that was because it's like I there's so many so many of the stories that I feel like I watch are like I feel like I love Disney Plus and Netflix and stuff, but it's also like I love that they're fighting, and it's like that's a more interesting story than a lot of the stories on the platforms because it's like wouldn't it be more interesting to see like these like these dueling corporate entities fighting and like how they're like, oh well, we'll make a superhero movie and we'll make a superhero show making fun of your superhero show. Like as my friend was like, oh man, The Boys is so subversive, but it's like The Boys is owned by Amazon and they're using it as a method of attacking Disney. And it's like they but we as consumers are just like, oh well, that is actually that's just like really good art. But it's like it's a great show, but it's also like Amazon saying like, hey Disney, we're gonna have your characters kind of, and then have them like get killed and have dirty sex and stuff as a way of just attacking them as corporate entities.
Corporate. It's like theater, corporate theater, like on a big scale.
I
So
sometimes, oh man, Disney Plus is really killing it. It's like, why do I fucking care? Like, I don't make any of that money.
okay, well, okay, let's talk about that in this movie then, because I think there's an interesting thread in Buffet Infinity, which is like there's this kind of like almost inherent evilness to business in the movie. It feels like you got the it seems like a lovely sandwich shop that's like set up by this person who's like really cares about it, but like gradually that gets pulled into this greater corporate battle. You've got Ahmed in the middle here with his pawn shop, and he is ultimately like going through all of it. He's trying to make a buck the whole time on some level, I guess, until the end when things start getting a bit crazier, right? Like, do you feel like this is something that resonates with you in the movie? This kind of like kind of inherent like yuck of business.
No, no, I think that the movie's like pro capitalism. Like the overall arc of it is like it's so much darker than just saying like, oh well, capitalism is bad. It's like capitalism is all there is.
Hmm.
Like Buffy, and it's not our universe. Like I don't believe that, but the movie is not directed by me. It's Buffy Infinity's central theme is that like you have to do this because that's we are it essentially becomes all encompassing. So uh yeah, as much as I don't believe that capitalism is perfect, it's like Buffy Infinity, the whole movie is kind of it's saying like you kind of do have to be a part of it or else there's just nothing. It's literally just endless darkness.
It's like you can't. How can you reject a system when there is no other system to take its place? Something like that.
So something like that. I mean, I a few years ago I had this a little bit firmer in my mind, but because it is like essentially the movie is a propaganda film by Buffet Infinity. Uh, it also is like the material reality of what's happening in the last third of it is like you can't be trusted. So it's hard to say like what because from the beginning it's like Buffet Infinity's politics keeps changing.
Hmm.
Like it's initially like sort of a right leaning grifter, then it becomes a left leaning grifter, and it's within like probably 10 minutes. So it's like obviously Buffet Infinity doesn't actually believe in any of that stuff. It's just it kind of wants to use it to manipulate people.
Okay, that's okay. And so yeah, and so okay, what for you? Okay, I'll be honest with you. One of my questions that I was planning on trying to like think of a better way of saying was, can you explain what literally happens on a plot level in the movie? So, but like if this context, like Buffet Infinity, like can you say like, and this is all just fun. The movie doesn't have to have a literal explanation, right? But like, what does Buffet Infinity want as an entity? What do they desire?
That's a really good question. I think it wants people to love it because as it does exist. It does exist as like a, but it's not. It doesn't exist in the way that it anything that you see on screen is it trying to create a narrative to trick you, especially in the last third. So if you feel any sympathy for Buffet Infinity, then it is winning.
Okay.
And if you agree with Buffet Infinity, then it's like it's a yeah. That's another director that I think was a big influence was Paul Verhoeven, where it's like if you can experience this as a regular movie, but if you watch it later on, it's going to be a different movie because it is not written by me is what I'll say.
Okay, because that also like yeah, I think the last third, especially as you're saying, when really I think things go hit the wall, you got this kind of video entity who's coming in. It definitely feels like we're leaving some sort of clean reality in a manner of speaking. So it's really interesting to talk about this is like fully so it's fully in the Buffet Infinity propaganda zone. Now, I would say personally, and this is not a critique of the movie, but I would say I was not convinced by the propaganda. I left the movie being like Buffet and Vindi quite scary. I'm still afraid of them. But is that all right? Is that reconcilable with their desire to be loved?
Well, I from the yeah from the last third from the time that Siobhan has like she's in the hotel room and she's clicking through, and Buffet Infinity's having sort of a like a bipolar breakdown. Uh, and it's also being burned outside, and that's where Buffet Infinity is. That's where it kind of takes over the whole film. Anything that I don't know. I don't know what the I mean, the goal was for people to hopefully start trusting Buffet Infinity as it becomes better at narrative. Like
Mhm.
it becomes more apt at creating narrative and like figuring things, getting you to sympathize with it. By the end, it's like it's writing a sort of the last third of the movie as like uh to try and get you on its side. And I like hopefully at some point people are kind of on Buffet Infinity's side.
It's definitely
Because I
like
think
it
that
becomes a sympathetic force in the movie, you know? There's definitely the sense of like uh this at least for me, I was like, well, at least whatever it is, it's really going through it. It's really trying, you know? Like that's what I was feeling.
yeah, that's that means that hopefully it was like a little bit successful. But I just I love the idea of people feeling more sympathy towards Buffet Infinity and kind of being like, well, like why not? Like just let it take over.
Just let it take over. I mean, it does seem like okay. I have a question about buffet specifically for you because I do think fundamentally like I think it's a great choice to make it a buffet place because buffets to me are this kind of uncanny zone of being very delightful, but also I've gotten food poisoning from at least one of them. So there's like, and I feel like that's kind of a common thing. So like, how do you feel about buffets in particular? And like, was there a specific reason you chose the buffet place as the essential business for this entity?
Yeah, a great question again. The main reason was like when I was a kid, I don't think I had an eating disorder, but I did like the idea of being in a buffet forever. Like, because then it's like you just get to eat forever, and then you don't have to have a job. It's like it was like my version of like Never Neverland. Because my parents would take me to this place called Foodie Goody, and it was like a Chinese buffet place. And then I would eat like a whole bunch. I'd be like not hungry afterwards, and be like, God damn, I wish I was more hungry so that I could eat more. And then like my parents could just leave, and I could just live here in the rafters. Um, so I guess that is like a weird adolescent yeah, consumer fantasy. It's still in my mind, like it's just I would love to just be able to eat forever and then like never have to do anything else.
Mhm.
And it's like I feel like a lot of like advertisement is like it's trying to get at that little fat boy who just dreams of living in a buffet. And I do like I don't know. As an adult, probably a little bit less, but it's weird because like as a kid, you're just like I felt so susceptible to commercials where like I'd see like a burger commercial, I'd be like, I need to eat a burger, and then I'd see like a green fried chicken commercial, I'd be like, I need to eat that. But buffets, it's just like the idea that you are allowed to eat forever it plays to the fact that like you can't do that, but they know you can't do that, but they're pretending like you can do that so that you go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the promise of the buffet is exactly what you're talking about. It's the fantasy of eating forever, but their business model requires that you do not. Uh, that's that's really great. That's really great. Also, I love that image you said of like just living in the rafters of the buffet place. That's such a beautiful and kind of horrifying image, very like Phantom of the Opera. Um, okay, let's.
That thing in the movie was just like somebody. Yeah, there was a whole thing about like trying to. I guess it's still sort of in the movie, but it just becomes a hotel at a certain point, and then like
Yes.
yeah, it just keeps growing.
It keeps growing. Yeah, by the end, it feels like it's a whole multi-business corporation thing. Okay, well, okay. So I guess this is kind of like basically my final question. But like we're tying off this, you're talking about like these kind of childhood fantasies and your connection to the buffet. Buffet Infinity, the movie is rooted in this kind of '90s aesthetic, right? As we talked about earlier, this kind of channel surfing '90s thing. Do you have much like what's your relationship with nostalgia? Are you a very nostalgic person?
Right now I am just because I've gotten a few jobs taken away by AI. So I would love to just like move to a town called 1997 and just never have to deal with anybody trying to advertise AI imaging every time I try and watch a YouTube video ever again. You know,
Mhm.
I guess if it's 1997, I can't watch YouTube, but yeah, I mean, I feel nostalgic just because of, like I wasn't nostalgic like 4 years ago, but now I'm like, good Lord, I would love to live in the past. Um, also, like because it is like a film that I think is directed towards millennials. How old are you?
30, yeah, 30.
Yeah, so you're like right at the early millennial age.
Yeah, I'm like
Uh,
the youngest you can be. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you're like you remember watching television. It was like that was just like this force in your house. So
Hmm.
it's like and so much right now it's like Stranger Things, it's like it's looking back at nostalgia as this like really powerful and beautiful force, and like it also gets creepy, and you got to remember what it was like to be scared, but it's also like an incredibly damaging thing to just be constantly like trying to live inside of your youth. And I feel like millennials are probably like the most guilty of any generation, even more than like boomers, because we're just like, you know, we prefer the idea of the way I dress. I feel like I dress like I'm 11 years old a lot of the time. It's like where so much of it, so many of us are like living inside of uh, our past, that it's like, well, uh, for Buffet Infinity, I feel like it kind of plays on that too. Like, it yeah, yeah, it's trying to get people, and also like I think the time period, it's right before the internet kind of took over everything. Uh, so I'm trying to think like I wanted it to be right before things became digital, because I guess like the main antagonist is, yeah, we have Buffet Infinity, but it's really like everything that Buffet Infinity does in the last like two-thirds of the movie is just everything that's happened right now. Like you know, from like corporate takeover and stuff. It's just like imagine in like 1999, everything just everything that's happened right now all of a sudden just starts taking place within like a month. And that's the movie. It's almost, it's not like a uh it's a horror movie, but it's like it's just everything that I feel like people are being confronted with now with AI and yeah, and what advertising is now, where it's actually like it's listening to you at all times. If that was just suddenly, if Apple came out with that in the late 90s, like, you know, that's what I was trying to make with Buffet Infinity. It's kind of a complicated, uh I can't really describe this correctly, but it's like that was the idea. It was a bunch of really abstract stuff that is happening currently, just happening back in the day.
No, I think that really does come through, and I think especially when you're talking about like this last third of like that's just like kind of the modern this movie kind of catching up to the modern world very suddenly definitely feels that, especially when you're talking about it's like yeah, listening to you like personalized advertising. I feel like the way the movie starts breaking down the form of like what's an ad or what's like a news broadcast, it really does feel like that. It really does feel like there's the separation between like the TV world and like the real world, as it were, starts getting thinner and thinner. Um,
That's you described it way better than I did, because
no,
that is
you described it well. Uh, I thought so. Okay, so okay. Final question then. Let me. Okay, we're talking about nostalgia. We're talking about looking back to the past. We're talking about in certain ways the kind of in our inability to kind of live in that past, even if we wanted to fully. What about the future for you? Or do you have any thoughts on the future of your own movie making or your own art making or the world in general? Do you have any predictions you want to throw out?
yeah, I don't, I'm not as dire as a lot of people about AI, even though I have lost money to it recently. Uh the cool thing about it is that it makes us all kind of realize how much we like reality and real people and real films. Because it's like I don't know a single person who wants to watch an AI film unless it's like literally just on your iPhone for brain rot. But people do really love movies. So, and everyone that I know, I have a lot of friends who are in their early 20s. Like all they want to do is like watch films from the 80s and 70s and 90s. The films that ended up having so much CGI in them, like those are aging like avocados. Like it looks horrible, uh, and it's partially because like you know everybody was so excited about the future that we just kind of forgot that the things that we like about film is that there's human beings who are making it. So I mean, I think that's the coolest thing about Buffet Infinity for me is that like uh, when perfection is like it is now attainable, you can literally make a perfect thing, and it sucks. It's crazy. Like we can make perfect things with like a couple of prompts and like sending Sora or whatever video imaging, like a few $100s or whatever. You can make like actually what you want. It's just that that is not going to be cool. It just won't be something that people want to spend their time with because it's like the imperfection is the coolest thing. That's like what we like about stuff. So in a world where like perfection is attainable, then it's like the coolest thing is to make a hideous movie like the one I made, where like it is actively like gaudy and poorly filmed at times, and the actors don't always know what they're doing. It's like that is like true punk rock now because it's like if you can make things that look absolutely perfect, it's like that is, and it's easy to do that. It's like why even bother?
Hell yeah, dude. Love it. Um, love it. Well, that's the end of my questions. Thanks so much for talking to me. Really appreciate you.
Thanks so much for chatting. It's really fun.
I'm really fun as well for me, and I'm excited for our crowd to see the movie and hopefully kind of walk out in a daze and think about everything, and then go into another movie. So it'll be beautiful.